What's up, NBA fan? What's up, all sports fans? This your boy, JB, host of the Behind the Bench Podcast Network and channel. Just want to give a shout out to the rest of the crew. I'm talking about Shy, Kelvin, and Jermaine. And for everyone who's tuning in, I hope that you support Behind the Bench, become a subscriber, and help make this show the best that it can be. Man, oh man. I'm telling you, man, hey, check it out. When it comes to the NBA, you know, you always have a team that starts to rise, man, that you don't necessarily anticipate until it happens, you know. Like Golden State. When Golden State hit, man, it threw the NBA off guard. They didn't see that coming. And then Golden State has had a tremendous run. Four titles from 2015 to 2022. So 4 titles in 8 years, you know. But I'm really excited about what these young teams are doing. And as they gain more experience, these young stars, and play with more maturity and more resolve, then eventually they had the potential to win a championship down the road, especially when they, you know, top player is slowly coming of age. And this is what it's about. It's not about taking your young drafted players, man, and viewing them as assets to trade off. You know, that's been the model, really, ironically, since 2014, when we never seen the number one pick of a draft traded on draft night for a superstar until that happened to Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins was traded for Kevin Love. And instead of starting his career out with the team who drafted him in the Cleveland Cavaliers, he wound up being traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves, where he struggled, you know, for years to find his way. But he found his mark after being traded to the Golden State Warriors, and he became a champion. I was happy to see Andrew Wiggins contribute to a championship, and arguably he was the second best player on that team in 2022 for Golden State after Steph Curry. And that's what it's about. And maybe if Andrew Wiggins had never been traded and played his career starting out in Cleveland alongside Kyrie Irving, he's probably a better player than what he is now. You see what I'm saying? But nonetheless, the Minnesota Timberwolves, off to an amazing start. They're 7-2, and they have gotten better. They've gotten better, and I think a lot of it has to do with chemistry, building that chemistry. And a lot of times when you start talking about chemistry, it takes longer than a season. Look at this. Look at these Chicago Bulls. That's a perfect example. Look at these Chicago Bulls. Okay, you had your foundation, cornerstone franchise player, Michael Jordan. So he solidifies the Chicago Bulls as a future mainstay and leading that team for 4 years, right? Then Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant is drafted to the team in 1987, right? And that was during Jordan's 4th year in the league. And they built that dynamic up and had to go through a mighty playoff struggle versus the Detroit Pistons, but they stayed the course. They stuck with it. They built their resolve. They built their chemistry. They built that know-how over 4 years, and they broke through and became a champion. It was I don't want to say methodical, but it's like that's how you grow, you know. Or as I say, Doug Collins, who used to provide game analysis for NBA games during the early 2000s. He said, in order to become a champion, you have to get your heart broke. So when I look at a team like the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I'm not saying they're going to win a championship this year, but they're definitely heading in the right direction, and they got better, particularly in that brutal Western Conference. And I believe they legit, because remember, they've been to the playoffs the last 2 years in the first round. And they really should have beat the Memphis Grizzlies in their first round series 2 years ago. They lost 3 games where they was up by 20 points going into their fourth quarter. And I believe they didn't play right down the stretch. And then they had trouble guarding John Morant and Devin Bain in the last quarter of those games. But they have improved. They have a steady second unit with Naz Reid and Nikhil Alexander-Walker. And they starting five, man. I mean, okay, you got former 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert. Now he can play his role, which is providing great interior defense, rebounding, shot blocking when necessary. And playing alongside of him is Karl-Anthony Towns. He's now adapted to a number 2 role on the team. And I think, a lot of times, basketball has been distorted in a lot of ways because you've had so many players play out of position to where it may have taken the season for Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert to coexist on the court together as the center and the power forward. Right? So now with Anthony Edwards emerging as the team's best player, it can help bring the best out of Karl-Anthony Towns to where he can play the way he's supposed to. You see what I'm saying? Where he ain't shooting as many 3-point shots. And then you got steady guard play from Mike Conley, who's playing tremendous at this stage of his career, which I'm actually surprised that he's doing. And then you got on the team Jaden McDaniel. I think he's a 3rd-year player playing that 3 spot at the small forward. And he chipped in against Golden State, had 13 points. Anthony Edwards, 33 points. Gobert, 10 points. Karl-Anthony Towns, 21 points, 14 rebounds. And Gobert had a double-double, 10 points and 10 boards. And then Naz Reid had 10 points. Nikhil Alexander-Walker had 10 points, 10 strong points. And then Kyle Anderson chipped in. So Minnesota's for real. They for real. And they showed that the other night by beating Golden State, 116-110. And it could be a sign of things to come, not just by the Timberwolves, but by a lot of young teams. Oklahoma City Thunder got better. They beat Phoenix the other night on the road, and they beat them bad. Like, I think by like double digits, if I'm not mistaken. They beat them bad in that 4th quarter. Because eventually the youth, as they get mature, they got more energy than those veteran-laden teams, and eventually they're going to take over. New Orleans Pelicans, their issue was health. Because remember last year, about 40 games into the season, they sat atop the Western Conference, riding high. And then they just been ravaged by injuries ever since. Houston, 5-3. I'm just elated. I'm just elated about what these young teams are doing. Don't get me wrong. When you see a veteran team that has been competing, and then Denver Nuggets, defending champions, they prime. They a prime team. So it's better to stay the course and build and build and build and develop that chemistry amongst the players, particularly at starting 5, and you're going to see better results than these franchises right now that's trying to flip their roster, or whenever they hit a snag, always seeking to trade. That's not going to, like the Clippers right now, they got 4 players. They got 2 MVPs on the team right now, a 2-time Finals MVP, and a guy who was 3rd MVP vote getting back in 2018. So you essentially got probably 4 first ballot Hall of Famers on the team right now, and they can't win. It ain't about having all superstar talent. It's about everybody playing their role, rallying behind their best player. That's what basketball ultimately is about. But like I said, man, kudos to Minnesota T-Wolves, man. They 7-2, and they could be a team this year that finally, advance past that first round and get to that second round. It's about taking that next step. That's what it's about. So I just want to throw out that nugget. Until next time, this is JB for BTB Behind the Bench.